I am primarily concerned with is whether or not I'm going to have access to the records that I need to do the job that the House asked me to do. And as you know, because you just reported it, she is turning over her server, which I find to be an interesting choice of words. That the Bureau usually doesn't ask you to do things. They demand that it happen. But she wiped the server clean. So what are we going to be able to get from the server? And her lawyer self-selected the public record from the private record. My concern is getting access to every document that I need to be able to do the job that the House asked me to do.
All right, joining us now is Tom Fitton, president of Judicial Watch, author of the New York Times bestseller, The Corruption Chronicles, and executive producer of District of Corruption. I love that title. Tom, welcome. So let's talk about it before we get to Judicial Watch's dealings in the legal system with Hillary Clinton and others. Let's talk about the latest. The latest, of course, she's handed over the server, probably under threat of subpoena. We don't know that, but it makes sense, to the FBI. And now there are all kinds of reports that Hillary's inner circle may have stripped email classification markings off the emails before they got to Clinton or whatever. What's your read on all this?
Well, it's an indication of why there was this resistance to disclosing information to the courts and Judicial Watch's various cases and other courts interested in this, to Congress and to the American people. We're not even sure that information Hillary Clinton's been disclosing to the court recently is everything that is need to be known, certainly that the court wants to know about this issue. So when you're talking about classified information residing on an unsecure system like this, Mrs. Clinton and the others have responsibilities, and they took efforts to delete classified markings in order to transmit them or keep them elsewhere. You know, this is a matter of a potential criminal consequence, and there has to be a serious independent investigation. And I don't understand why everyone in Washington seems to think that the Justice Department under President Obama and his appointee Loretta Lynch is independent enough to do this type of investigation. There needs to be a special counsel that at least has a modicum of independence and can reassure the public that things are going to be done on the up and up. In fact, it's taken too long for the server to be taken up by the FBI and the Justice Department as it is. They've known there's been classified information on there for some time, or had reason to believe there was, and yet did nothing to do it. And the timing of the request is seems to be more than a bit coincidental, given the court's efforts in our case to get the State Department to get assurances from Mrs. Clinton and her top official aides that records are being preserved and all official records have been turned over to the State Department.
And catch us up on those legal efforts and the latest, because if I'm not mistaken, a judge insisted that Hillary and two of her aides swear under penalty of perjury that they did do everything that they needed to do. And did they not do that? Did they not or at least submit written statements to that effect?
Well, Judge Sullivan in our case, this is a case about Huma Abedin's special government employee status, where she was able to work and get money as a State Department official.
And that's Mrs. Anthony Weiner, just for the record, yes.
Right, while working for one of the Clinton Inc. organizations, Teneo and others. He wanted to figure out what are there other systems of records that the State Department's responsible for. So get Mrs. Clinton, he told the State Department, to tell us under penalty of perjury she turned over all the government records she has. Same for Abedin. Same for Cheryl Mills, her chief of staff, who now works at the Clinton Foundation, I understand. Mills and Abedin have refused to confirm that they've turned over those records under penalty of perjury. Mrs. Clinton did file something saying she turned over records under penalty of perjury, but the statement is just so full of loopholes and conditional clauses, and she said, I don't know anything about this lawsuit. I told someone else to turn over the records. They told me it was done, so it's been done.
Now someone else. Well, that's Clinton speak. You know, too bad she didn't say it depends on what the meaning of the word is. But now, how does Abedin and Mills get away with, to this point, defying the judge's order, and when will that be addressed?
Well, they haven't been able to certify under penalty of perjury that the records have been turned over, and the judge wants, I think, a good understanding of when this is going to be done. And then the response to the State Department's letters that were ordered by the judge, Cheryl Mills' attorney said, well, I told Cheryl Mills to destroy the records on Monday. This was last Friday. And the judge intervened and said, to the State Department, tell Miss Mills, tell Mohammadine, tell Mrs. Clinton not to destroy these records. And I mean, that's pretty extraordinary that a federal judge had to remind these officials don't go around destroying records.
And you know what's more extraordinary? That this is going on and the media, well, of course, isn't covering it, because if this was Donald Trump's civil case, it would be page one. Hey, keep up the great work as always, sir. Great to talk to you again.
Thank you, Steve.
All right, Tom Fitton, ladies and gentlemen. Judicial Watch doing such great and important work. Up next, we're going to shift gears and talk to the founder of Freedom Watch. Former federal prosecutor Larry Klayman has his own dealings with the Clintons. Don't go away.